Hello once again, my fellow Shrek worshippers. I've been making top 10s for a good long while now, and, sometimes you just want to experiment a little with something else. I'll keep making top 10s, but I'm going to try something a little different today. Instead of top 10, this is just 10 in no particular order. 10 of what, you ask? Why, it's 10 of the best ways to get hired anywhere. You can work anywhere. Well, some of them are for specific places, but that's what this is. That's what we're doing today. Top 10. It's not a top 10. Specifically, not a top 10. Just 10 in no particular order. Here we go. The first tip for you today is apply for a job at a pyramid scheme company. They will hire literally anybody, and I mean anybody. My neighbor's dead cat got hired at one just the other day, and it never even sent in an application. Sure, you'll lose more money than you make. Your life will be ruined and you'll be in debt, but you got hired. And that's what this list is about. Getting hired. Not this worthless money fad that's going around right now. Understand, folks? Peasants that care about money, get a job. Second tip for you is be rich. This is the only thing that money is good for, by the way, because if you can pay the company more money monthly than they will lose by you working for them, almost anybody will hire you. That's what the power you have with money. You can control these idiots who care about money so much. A plus that commonly comes from being rich is that you'll be more likely to have a loose connection with some higher up at the company, which gives you a nepotism advantage as well. And speaking of nepotism, that's our third tip, is that you should personally know your employer. If your employer is a friend, lover, or even acquaintance, they have a bias towards you. Even if they are into that weird morals thing, they still have an unconscious bias. Family members too, I forgot to mention them. Why do you think family businesses are a thing? Now the best case scenario is if your employer is yourself, because nobody knows you better than you. You're almost certain to get the job. Almost. That brings me to tip number 4. Be self-employed. If you consider doing whatever the hell you can for money a job, then just do that, and boom, you're self-employed. What you do for cash can be literally anything. Freelance art, begging, or making YouTube videos. I do all 3 of those on my channel here. An upside to this is that if you tell someone you're self-employed, you sound smart and in control of your career, even though most self-employed jobs are exactly the opposite. Although you're still smart. I wouldn't call myself dumb. Why would I do that? Tip number 5. Be confident. Never act like you're anything less than amazing. If your employer is dumb enough, they'll believe you. The people who take this to its logical extreme end up starting religions, or at least a new denomination. Pretending you're so cool you're a messenger of God always works. Pretending you actually are God doesn't usually work. However, I'm not saying it can't be done, but you gotta be a really good bullshitter to fool even idiots with that story. Even then, you'll only start a short-lived cult. The best middle ground is to pretend you're the human incarnation of God. Way easier to trick people, and you can still have all the control over people. If every Egyptian pharaoh did this, you know it works. All this is to say, it's probably not too good for getting a job at most places, however, so you might just want to be a normal human being, but act like you're a really good human being. What? Is it pronounced human being? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, bullshit. That's not real. Tip number 6. Go to college. Most companies are more likely to take someone who has been to college than someone who hasn't, even if neither their degree, major, or really anything they did in college has anything to do with the field they're applying in. Over 50% of college graduates get hired in jobs where their degree isn't useful in any practical way. 50% of college. I'd recommend getting a degree in gender studies. All you have to do is regurgitate what the professor says and not do any actual work. You still get the bonus that idiot employers will hire you more. Number 7. Make your resume in the form of a comic. The average employer spends only 7 seconds reading each resume. You better make sure they can finish the whole thing in that time, because average means they never spend more time than 7 seconds on a resume. All they need to know is that you have lots of strengths, but will admit your weaknesses, because admitting your weaknesses is also a strength. The way I do this is that I say my greatest weakness is that I have so many good ideas it's distracting. It works every time. I always get them. They always hire me, and usually they suck me off. Tip number 8. Be a kid in a sweatshop. If you live in a place with lax child labor laws, you can get employed even if you're just a kid. This is something no other job can say except acting, but you'd be hard-pressed to get that job. Don't bother with it. Back to sweatshops. You can find many in China, India, and the Industrial Revolution. Getting hired at one is almost a 100% guarantee. I highly recommend it if you are under the age of 18, or really under the age of 16. Because it might be easier if you're like a 16 or 17 boy to just like get a job at some fucking place, you know. Tip number 9. Eliminate all competition. If you're the only one remotely hireable, you're sure to get the job. Just eliminate everyone who's better qualified. There are many methods of doing this. My favorite is to start a social media craze by proving that they are racist. This works even if they already have the position. That's how good this method is. You could also frame them for a scandal with the employer's spouse. That method doesn't always work, but it is way classier because it doesn't broadcast to the entire fucking world that they're racist. Tip number 10. Be in multiple minority groups. Employers have to meet certain quotas for hiring minorities. They still want to hire as few of them as possible, though. This means that if you're in more than one minority group, you're almost certain to get hired. They kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You get a below minimum wage job with a mean boss. The optimal minority combination for getting hired is a black, lesbian, transgender woman, or other non-male gender that has some kind of physical or mental disability. Mental if you're doing physical labor, or a job where you interact with customers. Physical for everything else. If you aren't in any of these groups, just lie that you're homo and identify as the opposite gender. They have to believe you. That concludes my list of the 10 best methods of getting hired, not in any particular order. This is not a top 10, but these are the best methods. The 10 best in no particular ranking. So, if you do these, if you use these tips, you should get hired somewhere today or tomorrow. And if you don't, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. You must be really dumb. Or maybe you're really smart not to listen to this shit. I'll see you all in hopefully the previous video, because I'd like you to watch that one before I release another one, you know? But until I do release another video, sayonara, as we say in my hometown.